Yourself just looking at an old book printed in Armenian, like really old, 16th century kind of old. The typeface is always incredible, but it always seems like the experts are stumped by it.
It really is remarkable. I mean, look at that book from 1512, the one that sparked all this debate.
Oh, right.
Was it printed with metal type, or were those letters painstakingly carved into wood blocks? We're still not totally sure.
Makes you think about how much effort went into preserving culture back then, especially for the Armenians.
It's true.
Their homeland was caught between empires, monasteries were being destroyed, and to top it all off, the Ottomans had banned printing outright.
And that's what makes it so important, right? Printing wasn't just about spreading knowledge. It was a lifeline for Armenian culture. Every book, every pamphlet, it all played a role in preserving their language and identity when it was under the most pressure.
So then we jump ahead, fast forward to the 18th century. We've got Armenian merchants thriving over in Madras, India. Now, we know they were incredible traders, but get this, they also published the very first Armenian nationalist book.
It's a really bold move when you think about it. Nor Tetrarch, calling for a unified Armenian nation, and during the Enlightenment, no less, the audacity.
Yeah.
Everyone's supposed to be all about reason and logic, and then bam.
Yeah, and talk about a shakeup.
Talk about controversial. It sparked debates, even book burnings. It's really something when you think about that kind of reaction to the printed word.
And the whole time, there are the Mekataris monks. They're quietly shaping things behind the scenes, influencing how Armenian thought was presented.
They're the scholarly powerhouses, really.
Their printing presses, first in Venice and then in Vienna, had an impact on Armenian typefaces for centuries.
And here's the kicker. The Mekataris, they were supplying typefaces to everyone, even the people who were trying to convert Armenians to other religions.
Oh, wow.
It's a strange thing to think about.
Almost like a typographical spy novel with fonts sneaking across borders, influencing people. And speaking of intrigue, did you know the first Armenian type made in England was actually for a book on Armenian history? A scholarly work, of all things.
It's fascinating because the typeface was based on a Dutch design, but it really put English Armenian printing on the map. It shows how global connections were influencing the way this alphabet developed. But it wasn't always easy. As we move into the 19th century, things start to change. There's political upheaval everywhere. New ideas are spreading.
And smack dab in the middle of it all, the Armenian alphabet undergoes a huge shift. Latinization. It really did revolutionize things, not just for the Armenian alphabet, but for the whole culture.
Totally. I mean, can you imagine the effect that had on books, newspapers, how people saw themselves?
And that's touched everything.
Armenians were embracing all these new ways of thinking, new technologies, and their alphabet was right there with them. This wasn't just about changing letters, it was about finding their place in a modernizing world.
Which wasn't always easy, right? This whole idea of tradition versus progress, it all comes to a head with this one printer in 1840s Constantinople. What a maverick, this guy.
You're talking about Ioannis Mewantizan. He actually simplified the traditional Bolorger type.
The one known for those beautiful flowing strokes.
Exactly. But Mewantizan's new typefaces, they were more upright, less elaborate. Think of it this way. If the old Bolorger was like this ornate calligraphy, Mewantizan's version was more like a streamlined font you'd see on a government document.
And I bet he knew it'd cause a stir.
Oh, absolutely. He even wrote a pamphlet about it, defending his new typefaces.
What do you say?
His argument was the old letters, they were just too delicate, too expensive to print. He thought they were holding back the spread of knowledge and ideas.
And that's where we see the impact, right? Mewantizan's simplified typefaces influenced by Latin type, they really were a game changer for newspapers. Printing became cheaper, faster, more accessible.
Exactly. Think about the effect that had on literacy rates.
It's wild how something as small as the shape of a letter can have such a huge impact.
Yeah, and this change, it sparked a debate that's still going on today. Was it a step forward toward modernization? Or was it giving up a piece of Armenian culture? Did it help preserve the language, or did it water down its uniqueness? These are still hot topics.
Type as a symbol. Who knew? Okay, so we're going to make another big jump here. Let's head to the 20th century. The era of linotype and monotype machines.
What a time for printing.
Those machines were a revolution.
And Armenians, they needed new typefaces to keep up. Remember those gorgeous flowing scripts? Imagine trying to program that detail into a machine built for mass production.
Talk about a challenge.
It was a huge undertaking.
Our sources actually go into all the behind-the-scenes drama at companies like Monotype. They were really trying to make Armenian typefaces work on these new machines.
Honestly, it was kind of a mess sometimes. Technical issues, designers misunderstanding each other, misinterpretations of the alphabet itself. It was a constant balancing act. They were trying to make something beautiful, something practical, something that honored tradition and embraced new ideas, all at the same time.
Really makes you appreciate the skill these typographers had, especially with an alphabet as unique as Armenian.
Absolutely. And while companies like Monotype, they're focused on mass production, you've also got individual artists trying to solve the same problems.
Right, like Onik Autisian, he was really into Armenian type design in the 1960s.
And his story really shows how tricky it was to combine tradition and technology.
Definitely.
Autisian's designs were beautiful, don't get me wrong. He really captured the spirit of traditional Armenian script. But they were often too intricate, too fragile for the machines of the time. Imagine trying to mass-produce those delicate details. It was like trying to fit a square peg into a round hole.
So even with the best intentions, holding on to your heritage while technology changes around you, it's no easy task.
Yeah.
It makes you think, though, what would Armenian type look like today if those 19th century printers, the ones who embraced Latinization, what if they'd chosen a different path? Would we even recognize it? Would those elegant scripts have survived, or would they have been abandoned too impractical for today's world?
It's a fascinating question, isn't it? It makes you weigh the pros and cons.
Right.
Latinization did streamline things. Armenian type became more efficient, more in line with modern printing. But it also brought Armenian and European aesthetics closer. Did that help spread Armenian culture, or did it blend away some of its uniqueness? It's a tough one.
It's that constant tension, honoring the past, embracing the future. We've seen it throughout our whole deep dive, haven't we? From those early woodcuts to Autisian pushing the limits of design. Makes you wonder, what does it even mean to preserve something like cultural identity when technology is constantly changing?
And it goes beyond just Armenian typography, you know?
Yeah.
Think about all the different ways people write Arabic, Chinese, Cyrillic. Every single one has to figure out how to adapt to the digital world. How do you keep the heart of a script, that unique beauty, and still have it make sense on a screen?
That's something we all deal with in this day and age, I think. Do you hold on to what you know or find new ways to adapt?
And there's no right answer. It's all about finding that balance, keeping traditions alive while making space for new ideas.
So the next time you see Armenian text on a sign, a book, even just on a website, take a second to really look at it. Those letters, they represent centuries of history, a testament to how a culture can adapt and survive. And that is something truly incredible.